probably Bitcoin 100,000. Hell, that could be next month. I think the last cycle was truncated by the Chinese miners and the FTX, some other issues, FTX. So I think this cycle will go higher. I think it'll be 200 easily, but it could be 400 or 500. I mean, I know a lot of smart people, a lot of models show that could be a million.
Welcome to our YouTube channel. Lawrence Lepard begins by discussing the potential future value of Bitcoin, highlighting its incredible growth potential. He mentions various price predictions, ranging from $100,000 to $1 million per Bitcoin. While acknowledging that these figures might seem optimistic, Lepard emphasizes that Bitcoin's trajectory is difficult to predict due to its unique characteristics and the various factors influencing its price. He references discussions with other prominent figures in the crypto space, like Preston Pysh and Jeff Booth, who share his view on Bitcoin's potential. Lepard believes that the last Bitcoin cycle was affected by external factors such as the Chinese mining ban and the collapse of FTX. Despite these setbacks, he anticipates that the current cycle will see Bitcoin reaching new heights, potentially up to $200,000 or even higher. He suggests that while significant price corrections might occur, they are likely to be less severe than in previous cycles. This is due to the increasing adoption and the growing understanding of Bitcoin's value proposition. Please take a little time to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications for more videos like this. You can also check out our other videos on cryptocurrencies and the overall digital asset space and drop your comments and observations in the comments section below. Everything you do helps with the YouTube algorithm and immensely contributes to the channel's growth. Thanks and enjoy the video.
Probably Bitcoin 100,000. Hell, that could be next month. You know, we've got Bitcoin 1 million. I mean, if you believe Samson, that could be, in a year or two or less. I mean, I don't know. That's the tough one for me. I don't know what this Bitcoin slope is going to look like. I don't know how far this ramp is going to go. We were talking about it at dinner last night with Preston and Jeff Booth last night. We were all trying to kind of guess what was going to happen at this thing. It's very hard to know. I mean, I think the last cycle was truncated by the Chinese miners and the FTX, some other issues, FTX. So I think this cycle will go higher. I think it'll be 200 easily. I mean, I know Kaiser says, 230 is in play. That sounds about right to me. But it could be 400 or 500. I mean, I know a lot of smart people, a lot of models show that could be a million on this cycle. I just don't know. I also think wherever it goes on this cycle, I think we're done with 90% down, 80% down, 70% down, probably 60% down. I could maybe see a 50% or 40% down. Maybe not. I don't know. It's hard to say. I mean, the difficulty is that we're getting onto the steep part of the curve, and so the corrections are going to be a lot shallower. I mean, if you go, the other thing that I think you and I both have looked at and talked about, this Malcolm Gladwell, the tipping point argument, the 15 years to get to are we at 10% on this thing yet? I'm not even sure we're there. If we had a God candle that took us to 500,000, like let's say, I mean, we can't even imagine this, but like let's say we had let's say we ramped to 500,000 sometime within the next 3 months, okay? I mean, way above the base. Could you have a 60% drawdown off of that? Abso-friggin-lutely. I mean, there's just no doubt. I mean, but absent that, I think that, you can, I mean, the 200-day moving average will be a meaningful data point, and it will, having that big a drawdown is going to require having a ramp that gets, way, way, way above, the 200-day moving average. So,
Yeah.
So to that point, but you're getting more and more supply or more and more demand coming from more and more bigger buckets. And, you've got sovereign wealth funds. I was at Dubai at the conference there, and, there were a lot of, Arab wealth managers sitting there quietly listening very intently about Bitcoin. And, those guys don't buy $1 million. They buy tens and hundreds and arguably billions of dollars of something. And there's just not enough of it to go around. We were talking before the show started about how many coins have been lost and how many coins are in solid addresses that won't move. I mean, look, the 70% that haven't moved, I'm sure some of those will move at 200. I'm sure more will move at 500. I'm sure a reasonable number might move at 1 million. because hey, you guys need houses and you want to have kids and all that kind of stuff. But even so, you're not going to sell your whole stack. You'll sell 10%. To upgrade your lifestyle a little bit, as you should. We have never seen an asset where the supply of the asset does not respond to the price. The supply is algorithmically set, period, full stop, right? And the price can be whatever the price can be. So yeah, I mean, it's going up forever, Laura. It is, and it is. And it's going to be really hard for people, when it's at 500, to sit there and say, oh shit, I can't buy it, I'm too late. Everybody when they come to Bitcoin thinks they're too late. I thought I was too late when I bought my first coin at 300 because I knew people who'd bought it $2.
$300.
$300 a coin, yeah.
Yep.
And I thought I was, really too late. I mean, when I was buying, at 17, because I was paying a lot, but that was in, the Thanksgiving of 2017 or something. And so, and by the way, after that, it fell a lot. And so, people are going to continue to chase it, and it is a monetary instrument with superior characteristics, and that's just a fact, and that fact will not disappear, and that's why it's destined to ultimately be the underlying base layer for all money and denominate the value of everything. It's like, it's Newt's view. It's 21 million divided by everything divided by 21 million.
Right.
I mean, that really is kind of where we're going in my view, and it's there's no real wrong price to buy it at, if your time frame is longer than 5 years or 10 years. I mean, you'll be in the money. Historically, you'll be in the money within that time cycle. So these ETFs are just an absolutely enormous deal. There's no other way to say it.
Lepard explains that the availability of ETF has opened up Bitcoin to a market worth trillions of dollars, managed by registered investment advisors RIAs. This is a game changer because it allows for easier access and broader adoption. He cites Michael Saylor's point about front-running Wall Street, indicating that early adopters of Bitcoin ETF are positioning themselves ahead of a massive wave of institutional investment. Lepard delves into the dynamics of Bitcoin's market, explaining the multiplier effect of increased demand on a limited supply. He points out that while Bitcoin's market capitalization might be over $1 trillion, the actual tradable supply is much smaller due to long-term holders and lost coins. This scarcity means that even small increases in demand can have a significant impact on the price.
The ETF, the important thing, and I'm repeating what a lot of people know, but some people may not, so I'll just repeat it. The average financial advisor could not easily put people into Bitcoin pre the ETFs. That's why it's such a significant thing. The only way they could do it would be to buy MicroStrategy or to buy GBTC, which was the Grayscale Trust. And people were saying, I want to own some Bitcoin. Well, your broker at Morgan Stanley or Schwab wasn't going to go buy a Trezor and cold store Bitcoin. They couldn't do it. And people had, they had IRA accounts and places. They needed a ticker symbol where they could say, buy me some Bitcoin, and they could go on a registered exchange and buy Bitcoin. That's what the ETFs brought. Well, what did that do? That suddenly freed up, and I've seen numbers as high as 100 trillion and as low as 40 trillion.
That sounds about what I've heard,
right? It's a range of RIA money, or registered investment advisor money that's in brokerage accounts that people, buy stocks with or bonds or, anything with a ticker. And that money is now available to buy Bitcoin. It wasn't available before, it is available now. And this is why Saylor made such a huge point out of this, that people could buy Bitcoin. We were front running all of Wall Street. It's a big, big, big deal. So how much of that money is going to go into Bitcoin? It's impossible to say. I mean, none of us know with certainty, but we already know some of it's going in, and we know it's going in faster than we thought. And if you want to keep track of that, there's a great Twitter guy, Fred Krueger, has some really nice numbers and follows it. We highly recommend you follow him to see it. And so, what you'll see is that, people start off and performance drives ETF decisions. Okay, people say, and they see something going up and they want to be a part of it, and they might start off at 1%, but then it becomes 5%, and then it becomes 10%, and people tend to gravitate toward the thing which is doing well, and so, I mean, I can't see how, I mean, if you take that $1 trillion, and as we all know, Bitcoin market cap is 1.1 trillion, but that's not what's really available for sale, right? 70% is in addresses that have been there for more than a year. So that's not going to sell anytime soon. Those people are long-term holders. 30% is maybe tradable, and some of it's been lost. So, you know, if when we get people coming in and wanting to buy, there's a multiplier effect that we've discussed. And so, you know, you've got to pay a higher price to get in. And that's what there's just not that much supply available. I mean, what are we minting? 900 coins a day, I think, roughly. And, you know, one of these days recently, I saw that there was demand for 9,000 coins out of
10 to 1.
Yeah, 9,000 coins out of the ETF. That's big, okay?
20 to 1 after the halving.
Right. Yeah, and the halving comes and it's going to be even worse, right? So I mean, so the point is, you know, numbers really going to go up. And that, you know, that ETF, and we're just getting started. And what I think a lot of people in the world and in TradFi are going to have a really hard time wrapping their minds around, and very wealthy people especially are going to have a hard time with this is, you know, and because I actually talked to some guys, I talked to one of my friends who's quite wealthy, and said, you know, this was recently. I said, you got to get into it. And he said, where? He said, where is it? I said, it's 50. He said, shit, you know, I should have bought it at 25. Well, okay, doesn't matter. It's still cheap at 50. He's doing this anchoring thing where he's saying, how can I buy something that just went up 100%? I'm at great risk of it going back down. I'm not going to do it. You know, well, guess what? I mean, you should, you know, when it goes from today at, you know, 60 something to when it's at 100, you know, he's going to feel like it's and he's never going to buy it. They would come out and say, I mean, it's fascinating. I've read some of the history of it, of how they'd come out and say things like, you know, oh no, we're going to return to the gold standard. I mean, and everyone will think for a minute, you know, it's like what Janet Yellen says. Do you know what I mean? The dollar is sound. You know, we don't have a recession. You know, don't worry, ignore that government debt. It's not a problem. You know, the bond market is healthy. You know, really, Janet? You know, when it went up 20% last fall, you completely panicked, and the Fed had 14 governors out within 3 weeks, you know, talking about how they were intending to pivot. You know, it's all detailed in my quarterly letter, which is free on our website. So, you know, it's common. You know, it's definitely common, and none of us know. I mean, that's the tough part, but that's kind of the fun part too. It's fun to watch it play out in real time, and to know that we're on the right side of a movement that's an important movement. And I, you know, I mean, Preston and I were talking about this the other day. It's kind of fun to watch the other side squirm. Do you know what I mean? And they're not that good. I mean, they're not that good. They keep effing it up.
Lepard addresses the psychological barriers that prevent some investors from buying Bitcoin, even when its price is rising. He mentions a conversation with a wealthy friend who hesitated to buy Bitcoin at $50,000 because it had recently doubled in price. Lepard argues that this anchoring bias is common, but ultimately misguided. He believes that Bitcoin is still undervalued and that its long-term potential far outweighs short-term price fluctuations. He emphasizes that Bitcoin's fixed supply and superior characteristics as a monetary instrument make it a valuable asset for the future. As more investors recognize this, the adoption will continue to grow, and Bitcoin will increasingly serve as a base layer for the global financial system. Please like and subscribe my channel.